So Monzo is one of those companies with mass appeal. We see advertising everywhere. And at one point, Monzo was the card to choose if you wanted to spend abroad and have the lowest foreign exchange fees. However, recently Monzo has veered off into the investment world. So is this a good decision? And has Monzo Investment really opened up the floor for beginner investors to start looking into the stock market for better returns compared to everything else that is available? So let's get straight into the Monzo app. Now, if you've used Monzo before, this will be a very familiar place. You can see that you have this coral pink, which is a trademark of Monzo, card here, and you would get a free physical card signing up to Monzo too. Now, as you can see, one of the main benefits of using Monzo has always been the fact that, they have very small foreign exchange fees when going on holiday. And recently you can see that I spent abroad. When you do purchase something abroad in a different currency, it does tell you the location of where you spent it. It automatically categorizes it, tells you what you spent in the foreign currency and what that converted to in your local currency. Now, because a lot of people would have a Monzo card already because of their travels, baked into this app is also the Monzo Invest section, which allows regular people to start investing and have exposure to the stock market. Now, until very recently, I preferred using Trading 212's card as it has a higher level of cashback on spending, and that makes up for the slightly higher foreign exchange fee, meaning that in my opinion, Monzo isn't as competitive as it used to be. There are also lots of other competitors right now, such as Revolut, which offer really low foreign exchange fees too. So I always leave the links to my preferred platforms in the description down below. So if you'd like to sign up to them, you would receive a free bonus. Terms and conditions do apply. At the beginning of this year, I made a video reviewing the Monzo investment platform, and I kind of want to go back to it and see if this is a platform, that is beneficial for beginner people who do not know much about investing or saving, in fact, actually. Now, in order to get to the investing section, you do have to actually scroll down, and it doesn't seem to be obvious where this section is. I wish they made it clearer. In my previous video, you can actually see how you can set that up, but once you've set it up, you have this section called savings and investments, and you can go into that. Now, in this section, just like other investing apps that you might have seen, you do have a graph that allows you to see the progress, the value of your money or your portfolio over time. You can see that I invested right at the beginning of January, so the 3rd of January. I put in literally just £1 just to see how, my investments will go. In fact, I actually have forgotten about it. So I just woke up the other day and remembered, that I should do a follow-up video on Monzo. So what you can see is since investing, which is around 6 months ago now, if just a bit more than 6 months, you can see that the value of my portfolio has gone up by 10.78% in half a year, which is actually very, very good. In a normal year, this would have been very, very spectacular. Now, the reason why I'm making this video is there is a lot of discussion about whether, beginner investors or people who want to improve their financial situation, whether or not they should put their money into something like a cash ISA, which at the moment Trading 212 is paying out the highest at 5.2% as an annual equivalent. Now, we can already see that with this Monzo investment, we have achieved over 10%, which is more than double what we would have gotten over a whole year in putting it into something like a cash ISA. Now, there are a few things to discuss when talking about this. With a cash ISA, all of your interest, your gains are completely protected away from tax. Currently, my £1, which is not a lot of course, is sat outside of an ISA. However, Monzo does offer a stocks and shares ISA over here, and you can open a stocks and shares ISA. I have my stocks and shares ISA with Trading 212, but for example, if I did want to open a stocks and shares ISA with Monzo, I could have done this. However, this is up for more discussion because I personally think that something like Trading 212 or many other investment platforms do give you more options as someone who might not be a beginner investor, more control over their returns and money. However, that being said, Monzo Invest allows people, I think regular people who had traditionally just been saving in maybe a cash ISA or even not have heard of a cash ISA and have just been saving in a regular bank account, they now have the option to go with someone that is very trusted, someone like Monzo that, makes it extremely easy, and there are only 3 fund options that you could go for. And I would not be unhappy as someone, a regular person, never heard of investing, to receive 10% in 6 months on my money. As someone who advocates for long-term investing and wants more people, especially in the UK, to begin to invest, I don't really care what platform you use. as long as the platform is really intuitive, helps beginners, go from zero to starting investing. I am all for that. And although this video is not sponsored and I have zero affiliation with Monzo, I think it could be an excellent app for people to go from zero to starting their investment journey. Once they realize the power of compounding returns and investing, then they can go on to more of an intermediate platform such as Vanguard, such as Trading 212. At the end of the day, the option is completely up to you. But the great thing about Monzo is that it has a lot of these cards that help you understand the difference between saving and investing. And I think that is one of the biggest topics we have right now for the general public, is that most people don't understand the difference between saving and investing. Now, the biggest difference you're going to see is that with investing, your capital is always at risk, no matter what sort of investment you have. The value of your, capital, or the value of your investment, your portfolio, could always go down. And you can actually see this happened in April. So in mid-April, the portfolio balance actually did go down. But in the long term, we're only talking about 6 months here, but in the long term, over 20, 30 years, the value of any sort of good portfolio that actually survives is going to look more like this, going up in one direction. Now, if we go into investments, you can see my current value is £1.13. But if we go into it, we can see that Monzo makes everything extremely simple, and there are only 3 funds to choose from. I can press switch fund so that we can go over a recap of what the different funds are. Now, there are 3 investment options. The first one being balanced, the second one being careful, and the third being adventurous. Adventurous basically means that you have 100% of your allocation in equities, basically meaning all your money is in the stock market, it is in stocks. The careful fund here would be technically the least risky, risk meaning basically volatility. With the adventurous fund, you have a lot of volatility, meaning that sometimes you might see your portfolio go down by 20, 30, 40%. But in the long term, we do believe that, the portfolio will go up, making money in the longer term. Now, with Monzo's careful portfolio, you will see that 76%, so a large amount, is going to be put into bonds and only 24% in shares. Now, because bonds are fixed instruments, meaning that, when you buy a bond, you are pretty much guaranteed the payment at the end of the term of the bond. They stabilize your volatility in any sort of portfolio. At least they are supposed to. We've seen a couple years back where they actually haven't done that really. But over the long term, bonds stabilize your returns, meaning that, the higher the allocation of bonds, the more smooth of a ride you are expected to have in the stock market. Now, if you go into the fund details, you can also find out more about the fund details. These are all based on BlackRock's MyMap funds. So you get the MyMap 3, MyMap 5, and MyMap 7. So the careful one being MyMap 3. This is also an ESG focused fund, which could be good for a lot of people. You can also see the allocation of these funds, for example, North America being the highest, then Europe, and then a small amount in Asia. You can also see the past performance here, and if you really wanted to, you can actually see the fund fact sheet, but I've done this in my previous video. So the balanced option has mostly shares, again 72% in shares and 28% in bonds. This is the BlackRock MyMap 5 fund, and you can see most of it is in North America, the rest of it's in Europe and Asia. Quickly going over adventurous, 100% in stocks and shares. MyMap 7 here you can see, and again this is mostly in North America, and then quite a heavy amount in Asia, and then the rest is in Europe. So I really like this approach to, getting beginners into investing by only offering them 3 options. Something like Trading 212 has thousands and a limitless amount of options that you can choose. You can literally use up your entire lifespan on trying to find out different variations, because technically it's infinite. You can have different sort of pies, you can have all sorts of bonds and funds, and at the end of the day, that is extremely confusing for the majority of people who are just used to putting their money into a bank account. However, not everything is all fun and roses, because here we can see the return is 10.78%, which is extremely good. However, I'm going to quickly compare that with the S&P 500 over the same period of time. I'm just here on my Trading 212 app, which of course is one of my favorite investing apps. However, compared to Monzo, it's extremely difficult because of the vast amount of options, which is a double-edged sword. It is a good thing and also a bad thing. If you would like to sign up to Trading 212, the link is always in the description down below. And if you've signed up recently and haven't received a free share, then use my promo code JUBAIR and you should receive a free share. But in any case, I'm going to search the most popular S&P 500 fund in the UK. This is the VUSA, which is provided by Vanguard. We can see that over the past year, this fund has returned investors 24.67%. So since January the 1st, that is a return of over 14%. Now we can see with the MyMap 7 fund, the difference is around 4% of return, which is actually a whole lot if you think about it. This is one of the negatives of using Monzo, in my opinion, is because you are very limited by choice. You only have 3 funds, and even the best fund can't seem to outperform something like the S&P 500. But all things considered, I do think Monzo is a great platform for a lot of people to start investing. In my opinion, if it gets someone from, just saving to investing, then it has done an excellent job. I think naturally, once you have started investing, you're going to want to seek higher and higher returns. And of course, with higher returns, there is always more risk associated with that. So at the end of the day, more choice to the consumer is always a good thing. So make sure to check out some of my other videos, and I will see you in the next video.